It was a cold evening in New York. The city buzzed with its usual intensity, honking taxis, glowing billboards, and people racing against time. But inside one of the city's most exclusive restaurants, La Maison du Verre, time seemed to slow. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above elegant tables, and the air was filled with soft classical music. This wasn't just a place to eat, it was where power met prestige. Business deals, billion-dollar investments, and reputations were shaped here over wine and whispered conversations. At a prominent corner table sat Gregory Langston, tech mogul, billionaire, and a man who had built an empire from code and charisma. Dressed in a sharp tailored suit, surrounded by board members and investors, he was the kind of man who believed success made you superior. And remember, Gregory said loudly enough for nearby tables to hear, if you're poor, you're either lazy, dumb, or both. That's just how the world works. The people at his table laughed, indulging him. Just then, a young waitress approached the table, Elena Morales. Mid-20s, with a tired but genuine smile. Her black uniform was neatly pressed, and her name tag sat slightly crooked on her chest. She carried herself with quiet grace, the kind that comes from surviving hardship. "Good evening, gentlemen. May I take your order?" she asked politely. Gregory glanced at her name tag and smirked. "Elena, huh? That sounds Spanish. Let me guess, second-generation immigrant. Raised on food stamps?" She kept her posture straight. "My parents were from Mexico, sir. I was born here." He leaned back in his chair, a mocking smile curling on his lips. "If you're so smart, why are you serving steak and salad instead of owning the place?" Laughter again. Her cheeks flushed slightly, but she stayed calm. Then Gregory added, "Here's a little test for you. Ever heard of amor fati? Latin phrase. Bet you can't even pronounce it, much less translate it." Elena looked at him, her eyes didn't flinch. "Yes, sir," she said softly. "It means love of fate. It's a Stoic philosophy. It teaches us not just to accept everything that happens to us, good or bad, but to love it. To see every challenge as a necessary part of our growth." A hush fell over the table. Gregory blinked. His arrogance faltered for a moment. He forced a laugh. "Well, damn. You got that one right. Maybe you picked the wrong career after all, Professor." Elena just smiled faintly and walked away. Her heart was beating fast, not from shame, but from the power of speaking her truth. Behind her smile. What Gregory didn't know was that Elena had once been a straight-A student with dreams of becoming a lawyer. But after her father died in a construction accident and her mother was diagnosed with cancer, Elena dropped out of college to work 2 jobs and raise her younger brother Diego. She waited tables by night and cleaned homes on weekends. She never asked for pity. All she ever prayed for was strength. To survive, to provide, to keep dreaming. Unbeknownst to Gregory, another man at the restaurant had been observing the entire exchange from a quiet table near the window. Martin Calloway, a former university professor turned philanthropist, ran a non-profit that helped underprivileged students find mentors, scholarships, and purpose. He'd seen thousands of talented young people, some brilliant, some broken. But something in Elena struck a deep chord. When she came by to refill his water, he leaned in gently. "You handled yourself with grace tonight," he said. "Tell me, have you ever considered mentoring others? Working in education, leadership?" She hesitated. "I never thought I was qualified." Martin smiled and handed her a card. "I don't look for resumes. I look for fire." 2 weeks later, Elena left the restaurant for good. Martin offered her a mentorship program through his foundation. She quickly proved herself. Organizing workshops for immigrant families, building scholarship initiatives, speaking to youth in struggling schools. Her authenticity, her relatability, her quiet passion, they lit a fire wherever she went. Soon, Elena started her own initiative under the foundation, calling it a More Fatty Mentorship Circle. She led programs that taught not just academics, but resilience, emotional strength, and self-worth. Children who had once been told they were nothing now believed they were everything. Exactly 1 year later, Elena was invited to speak at the Global Youth Impact Summit in New York City. Thousands gathered, educators, business leaders, philanthropists, and media. Among them, unknowingly seated near the front row, was Gregory Langston. Dressed in a modest blazer and standing on the grand stage, Elena began. Once, someone asked me, "If you're so smart, why are you a waitress?" At the time, I stayed quiet. But today, I'll answer, I was a waitress because life needed me there. Because it was part of my story. Because it taught me compassion, humility, and strength. She paused. The room was still. A more fatty, love your fate. That phrase was thrown at me as a joke, but it became my anchor. Every pain, every job, every moment of doubt, it shaped me. And now I get to shape others. Thunderous applause erupted. Many wiped tears from their eyes. Gregory sat frozen. For the first time in years, he felt small. Not because he lacked power, but because he'd finally met someone whose strength wasn't for sale. After the event, he quietly approached her. "Elena," he said softly. "I owe you an apology. You taught me more than any business school ever could." She smiled warmly. Growth begins when we're willing to be uncomfortable. Gregory went on to become one of the largest private donors to the Amor Fati Foundation. Under Elena's leadership, the organization expanded globally, helping thousands of young people reclaim their stories and rewrite their futures. Diego, her younger brother, graduated with honors, and now teaches immigrant students in the Bronx, telling them, "My sister showed me what's possible." In a world that worships wealth, it's easy to forget the power of dignity, empathy, and purpose. But sometimes, it only takes one person, armed not with privilege, but with heart, to remind us that true intelligence isn't measured in degrees or dollars, but in the way we lift others as we rise. Because when wisdom meets humility, and success meets compassion, lives change. Sometimes, even the lives of billionaires.